The population continued to double every 25 years. Okay? The migration of people to the West increased in volume, and by 1840, over 1/3 of Americans lived in the West. Immigration from abroad was not significant until 1820, actually. Then it began to increase rapidly, mostly from the British Isles, and in many ways, the farming sectors also increased during that time. As markets for farm products grew in the expanding cities with the liberal land sale policies by the federal government, the growing staple of agricultural crops became more profitable. More and more land was put into cultivation. Okay? The Southwest was known as the Cotton Kingdom, and the region made up by Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and Texas. Those are all part of the Cotton Kingdom. Now, there's also part of the fishing industry, which I have here in this slide. We'll talk about it in a few minutes. These are new lands proved to be ideals for the production. Okay? The Cotton Kingdom, with Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, and Texas, very much a very fertile land for all these new resources, okay, important resources that were being utilized internally here and also somewhere else around the world. The growing market for food and work animals in the Cotton South provided the opportunity for the new Western farmers to specialize in those items and further stimulated the westward movement. Okay? So now let's go into the fishing. Fishing became very important where? In New England and the Chesapeake area. Okay? It proved to also be so profitable. Okay? So it's not just regular fishing, it's really mainly deep fishing. Okay? It's called deep sea whaling, became a significant enterprise, particularly in ports from all the way from Rhode Island all the way to Massachusetts. Of course, there are also ports that were seen in the Maryland and Baltimore area and also in the Virginia area. Okay? The expanding population created a nation for building materials and timber. Okay? Remained in many ways, shape, or form profitable export items. Shipbuilding thrived in numbers of eastern seaboard and Gulf Coast ports. Fur trades, businesses also increased, and mountain men continued their quest deeper and deeper into the Rocky Mountain ranges. And they look for, when you have a fur business, they look for beavers and other animals, right? The Santa Fe Trail, which is from New Mexico to Missouri, became an active trading grounds, opening up the Spanish territories to American migration, and influence also led to future territorial claims. There was also a transportation revolution, okay? Because the first half of the 19th century, witnessing a great sequence of innovation and inventions, this was called the True Revolution, okay? It gave a revolution to transportation, it gave a revolution to communication, so all of those emerged. Also, other inventions, okay, such as the steamboats, were pretty much built for river traffics, okay? Road building up began to reach new main cities, okay, and better road systems started to appear. Canals were built like the Erie Canal, okay? And also, in many ways, shape, or form, the Hudson River to the Lake Erie was a great way of trying to build all of this, of this system to move and be implemented, okay? At the time, canals were the first development projects to receive major funding. What does that mean? Well, when we were building up canals back then, the public funding literally is coming from the government funds, okay? Samuel Slater had migrated from Britain to, in 1789, having served as an apprentice under inventor Richard Arkwright. Okay, so this is Samuel Slater right here. He used his knowledge to build the first successful cotton spinning mill in this country. So it was very, very important during that time. The first cotton manufacturing plant in the world to include all elements, okay, of manufacturing under one roof was built in Boston in 1813. Now, as the expansion of the markets in Latin America and Far East, as well as the domestic markets, both resulted in a way to create a factory system. Okay, so when you have a huge factory system, of course, manufacturers and industrialists found it necessary to organize different banks, insurance companies, and real estates to firm to meet the needs of a growing business. The incorporation started to rise in business as well as the labor supply. So when you have all this business growing, now women are starting to be needed in these businesses. Young women were hired from surrounding countryside. They were brought to town, okay, and housed in a way, dormitories, okay, in the mill towns. They were, that time, paid low wages for their hard work. Of course, they were working under poor conditions, but they were only working for a very short period of time. And this is, of course, so that they could earn and help out with the family income, okay, after they get home. The factory system separated the owners from the workers and thus made the workplace very depersonalized, okay? So this is an image of different factories, or the factory system, because there was the hierarchy system in a way, in many ways, it became very, very professional. Okay, you have to go there and you have to work, and you have to work for a certain amount of hours during the day. This then started the growth of unions. There was a rise in public school system as well. Before, school were primarily sponsored by private institutions. A lot of it were basically corporate academics in the Northeast or religious institutions in the South or Mid-Atlantic states. Most were aristocratic, and the orientation and the training basically became more geared towards the nation leaders. And very few have interest in the schooling for children of the poor. Higher education started to add more training in other fields and studies such as medicine and engineering during that time, and a national growth for cultural nationalism, okay, led that America will finally be, okay, a great civilization, and it will discover the hope of mankind. Okay, so factory systems started to emerge. Women started to emerge in those factory systems so that they could continue to provide to their family. And then, of course, with the training and the school system starting to emerge, more and more people are becoming more educated. Now, with all of this expansion, with all of this, rise in the economy and businesses starting to really start getting their momentum going in the society, in a way, it's one of those things where we feel that America will be an America, okay, filled with so many different opportunities. And America, in many ways, shape, or form, became a country where people saw around the world that this is a country and this is a place where they could go and migrate and have a job, start a family, and a new country with all this economic boom during that time is a country that many, many people from around the world wanted to come and be part of.